Achamoth is the third full-length album from Lisbon, Portugal-based trio Wells Valley, and we could call this band a post-metal group to begin with, something related to both sludge and I guess extreme metal in some sense, but mostly atmospheric sludge and post-metal and somewhere in between there, and not always a traditional form of that because over the course of three albums, they've incorporated more extreme metal influences, and I think with the second album, they were almost there with the sort of the dissonant black metal angle. And with this record, they've self-produced it, self-recorded it, and made all the art themselves. It's lended a certain grit and a certain sound that is tuned more to dissonant black metal and should appeal to that crowd more often. So if you picked up this record, checked it out, and found that, where did these guys come from? It was more of a post-metal place, and those first two records are very different in most aspects. And I would say not only more so the guitar tone and the type of the way that they've composed these pieces a little bit more repetitive and in a structure that is more in line with something closer to just dissonant black metal in general. We'll go that far with it. I'd related some of the way that they construct these songs to something like Ad Nauseum or even Deathspell Omega's newer Furnaces of Palingenesia. But the structures of their songs are still kind of related to what ISIS was doing back in the day, and that type of band. So, the history of this band is kind of interesting because the vocalist guitarist Felipe Correa, he was in a death metal band for quite a long time. And I think still is. I don't know if they're still active, but they sort of moved from a sort of mid '90s progressive death metal style to something closer to like Meshuggah influenced modern avant-garde death metal. Interesting band to check out on the side, but this is his sort of other project that's taken over, and I find this band a little bit more interesting, and not only for their pursuit of esoteric like Gnostic ideas, but also for their approach, which is again somewhere between post metal and black metal, but certainly not in the typical way, as you'll find when we listen to this clip here. So there are a lot of sludge metal bands that use dissonance for effect, and certainly blackened ones that fuse these two worlds. But I think that this is a band that would appeal to someone who likes the more far out aspects of a band like Sumac, but also likes the more direct connection that a group like Thantafaxath makes. And I mentioned some other groups in here you can check out and all that, but really the point is that there's a direct from the room feeling of this record. It is a little bit raw, but not obscured, and generally it focuses on repetitive motions, and I think that gives it a devotional quality. It's got a kind of a mysterious lyrical focus here, and it made for like a very compelling record to engage with. I think that if you're in tune with dissonant and avant-garde black metal, and you want something a little bit different that isn't quite as predictable in the shifts that it takes within these repetitive motions, there's a lot to this that is almost rooted in the way that Meshuggah composes songs, where there's emergent pieces that sneak in there that are unexpected, whether it's a key change or a time signature. So there's a lot of interesting machinery in there if you're interested in paying close attention to this music. And for me, I do lean towards the Portal side of that venture, so there was some of that here too, where it is disturbing music in some sense, but also pretty pleasant other times. So, make that judgment yourself. I don't really want to get too deep into it because this is the kind of record you want to put on repeat and get a lot out of that way on your own. But this was one of my highest recommendations of September. You'll have remembered that it was fairly high up on my list on the best of September, and I finally got around to writing the review and talking about it. So, great record, a little bit of a surprise at the end of the month, but a great one. So, Check that out. It's out now already, and go ahead and read the written review if you want more of my thoughts in depth.